on Tuesday, I did an all call-in show because ever since going on Tim Pool's show, I've been receiving more listener calls than ever before. And this past Tuesday, I had a very interesting call from someone who, and this involves you, Sam, a listener named Brian from Alabama called into the show and told me how basically he was apolitical, not involved with politics, got interested with what was going on in the world during the COVID pandemic. And he fell down a conspiracy theory rabbit hole and was listening to people like David Icke and some really hardcore, like even like anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists. And then from there, he discovered Jimmy Dore, and he was a Jimmy Dore fan for a bit. And then he stumbled upon your debate with Jimmy Dore from 2016. And he told me that started to chip away at everything. And now he's a full on board, a whole Majority Report listener and fan, big fan of yours, listens to my show now. So that debate you did with Jimmy Dore, just how many, geez, that's like 5 or 6 years ago now.
Yeah. We should re-put that out. You know, we should
rewatch it.
We should rewatch it. But I want, because when we clipped it at the time, now, Matt, were you there at that time?
I wasn't. That was right after I left.
Right after you left. And the way that went down was I had contacted, and none of this is in the context of the debate, because I think the way that we clipped the debate, we didn't see this part. But I had called Jimmy, or I had emailed Jimmy the night before and said, look, because I perceive, I didn't follow his stuff too much, but I perceived him as largely, we were on the same sort of side of things, but I had seen this clip of him, on his aggressive progressive show, I think it was called, saying like, Peter Thiel becomes Supreme Court, doesn't matter. And, what difference does it make? And, people saying the Supreme Court's a big deal, it's not a big deal. And I sent him an email. I said, hey, do you want to come on the show tomorrow? Because I'm going to talk about this. And, I don't want to, criticize you in your absence, which is the way that, like, way back then, 8 years ago, I guess this was 6 years ago, we had some decorum in this business.
I mean, Michael was going on Jimmy's show before that. Like, yeah, it was like he was just part of the crew.
Yeah, and there was just some decorum. Like, you weren't, it wasn't like a gotcha situation. And he said, no, I can't do it. I can't remember exactly the words he used. I can't do it. But he said, I do remember him saying, rip me a new one. And I'm like, all right. And then he must have been listening to the show. He must have been tuning in, and he called in. So I started on it and he called in. And so I don't even think the clip that I was referencing is in the debate video. Maybe we should reissue that video with the clip so that people could see it, and then the rest is history. And I remember is Michael Brooks, IMing me, going like, "Don't take the headshot," and I was just like this.
I still can't believe to this day that his most fantastical scenario, the one that he said would be equivalent to the moon falling into Lake Michigan, happened.
It was absolutely imminently foreseeable too.
and the thing is too, is that I think it gets lost in this, is that he was claiming that the Democrats had, well, there was two things he was claiming. He was claiming, A, that the Democrats, if they lost the Senate, would have the ability to stop Trump from appointing somebody. And he didn't seem to understand that the reason why McConnell was able to stop Obama from appointing Garland was because they controlled the Senate. And then the other thing that was weird about it was I was the one who was saying, and you can't trust Democrats in the Senate to have any backbone. Like, this is just the reality we deal with. And, if I could wave a wand and have a better party called the whatever it is, the rinky-dink party, and they come in and they actually function the way I want them to, that would be great. But the fact is you can't. You have to look at the politics that exist and try and, how do you there's some room to force some politicians. There's some you have to avoid. There's some that you have to work around. And there's some you have to just realize, they exist. I can't, it's not weakness to carry an umbrella when it's raining, as opposed to sitting there and demanding it stop raining. It's going to rain. And so you go and you mitigate whatever that situation is. That was not the point of my asking you about Tim Pool.
Right. Well, yeah, it came up because that's someone who called in who discovered the show. I don't think it was via Tim Pool, but he found you before, and I think I've heard from people who've said like shows like yours and obviously yours as well. I've heard people say this sort of stuff is that combated the other right-wing internet personalities and pundits and helped them come out the other side. And I think, that's great to hear. Also, then tonight, 9 p.m., that's Doomed. I did that on Tuesday. You can check that out, youtube.com/Matt Binder and doomthecast.com. And then tonight, same place on YouTube, youtube.com/Matt Binder, and at scameconomy.com for the podcast, 9 p.m. Eastern time. I talk with Mike Bergersberg, who has been reporting and investigating this big crypto lending firm called Celsius, which people might be familiar with their name because they are that second shoe to drop after what happened with Terra and Luna a couple of weeks ago. They're that second shoe to drop that caused that second big crypto crash that came directly after. As of right now, there's 500,000 customers who had funds with Celsius that can't withdraw their money. So we dive into we dive into what's going on there and the interesting, somewhat shady past of their founder as well.
I find all of that hard to believe.
Right.
All of that. Matt, what's happening in the Matt Lekian media universe?
Last night we had a talk both with Chip Gibbons on Julian Assange and Jean Bajelon on Sublation Media. So full free 3 hours of Left Reckoning last night on Twitch and YouTube, patreon.com/Left Reckoning to support us.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and head into the fun half, wherein we will take your phone calls and your IMs and talk about some funny videos that we found. And also want to talk about January 6th. We'll be right back after this.